Welcome to episode 98 of the Road is Dead podcast. Welcome back. All right, so we're talking dietary stuff at this point. I don't want to end our conversation that we were just starting. You were saying you take what with beet stuff?
There's a you know how beet juice is supposed to be really good for helping your body provide the nitric oxide, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I've heard all of that. I haven't had a beet since I was a child because I had one and I threw up instantly.
No, I don't eat the beets. There's a company called Human that makes a whole bunch of beet products. They make chews, they make powders, that are just like daily use for heart health for people that have cardiovascular issues because it's very, very good for your health, for your heart. It's also very good athletically. So they have a mix that is designed specifically for athletes to take prior to competition. That's what I have. And it actually tastes pretty good.
Black cherry. That's the flavor.
Yeah. They put, other stuff in it that makes the flavor good. It's not like, oh my God, I could drink this all day, which you wouldn't want to.
You're not supposed to.
Like one scoop a day within 24 hours, you don't want to take more than that.
I have been using that for 3 years now.
But I've never had heart issues, so I had never considered it as a daily supplement need, but
I have 12 jokes to make, but Brussels sprouts.
Yes.
Brussels sprouts changed during our lifetime. Yes. They actually bred them differently.
So I heard that.
To breed out all of the bad tasting, that's why they were so much more bitter when we were young. And a lot of people say, oh, it's how they're prepared. No, they actually literally changed, selective breeding and all that, bred those properties out of Brussels sprouts. You would think that they would have done the same to beets at this point.
I love beets. I like pickled beets.
I think I had a pickled beet.
I like roasted beets. I love roasted beets. To me, they're like candy. They're so sweet.
Oh. You got to get back on the beet bus, Robbie.
I don't know. I don't see that happening.
It'll do you some good.
I have a very visceral reaction to it from when I was a kid.
There's nothing wrong with beets. You just don't like beets. That's okay.
He had a bad experience.
This is a semi-clean podcast. Otherwise, I would have said a couple things in response to that. I'm not going to. All right. So, third week of the tour, second week of the tour, second week of the tour. We're like a week and a half in, right?
Stage 12 today.
Yeah. So 12 days.
More than halfway through. Yeah. It's been good.
Thoughts, ideas?
I have enjoyed it so far. I think the Tade versus Jonas battle is so far what we kind of anticipated. I was particularly interested to see what other riders might pop up into that overall to potentially be a factor either against those two or just like unexpected people that would be riding really well. So I think it's just been interesting to see how things are developing on the GC. Stage by stage, I admit to being a huge Wout fan, so I've been a little frustrated for him.
Same.
Matthew Van Der Poel has been riding really well. He got sick there for a while, so he had a couple days where he was kind of off his game, but he's just an insanely good lead out for Philipsen, and then I really was cheering for him today on the stage to try and get away. He was away solo for quite a while. It was pretty exciting.
Blew himself up.
Yeah, it was good seeing him ride.
It's good to see that
so
he
far
was back in
this year. Yeah, because last year obviously he did not have a good year last year.
He did the Giro the year before that.
Exactly. So that's my thought so far.
Was he? Was it last year that he was already hurt from the mountain biking thing? World Cup or
2 years
national
ago.
Championships or something or Olympics?
Olympics. Broke himself off real bad.
Super sad to see Cav crash out. Really, honestly, with as many good sprinters and as dominating as Philipsen's been, I don't know if he would have gotten that stage win.
I think you absolutely would have got that stage win. He had that.
I want to believe that. I want to believe that.
I think he would have had it if he didn't have this. The second he sat down, you're like, it's over. And at first I was like, he got tired and he sat down.
No.
And then heard about the gear problems, and I was like,
So gear problems, he says that the gear was hopping around on him from 11 to 12.
Yeah.
Did it twice, apparently. Running Shimano, I believe. So we can't necessarily blame SRAM this time.
I think a lot of people get hung up on blaming a brand for something.
Well, when it comes down to a mechanical that happens in a clutch moment like that, even if you can like point to a mechanic doing something wrong, a lot of people think, well, it can't be because these are the best mechanics on I would argue that they're not the best mechanics on the face of the planet. They're the mechanics that can do a really good job, who can set aside their life for that amount of time and go and do the work and are willing to put in all those hours and work that hard. So I think you kind of, they're the best out of the pool who still are willing to do it, if that makes sense. These are like over-road truckers, if you ask me, on highway truckers or something, where they're gone for huge periods of time, and those that are good at it, but they may not be the best people that have ever driven a truck, so to speak. So mechanics can make mistakes, but people, when they see something like that happen in a clutch moment, they assume the mechanic didn't make it, cause a problem. You pointed out the possibility of user error.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's always a theoretical possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the man has won a hell of a lot of races for a long time on Shimano stuff.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that he doesn't make a mistake at this point, but it's always theoretically possible. I will never know, but I would throw my hat in the ring of he was putting down so much goddamn power during that sprint and when you do that to a system that's in essence designed to work around normal human beings,
flexing,
you flex the hell out of that frame and that interface between the frame and the hub, that it doesn't take much to create enough of an angle there to cause that to want to jump out, especially with the 12-speed chain and the spacings that we're talking about. It doesn't take much to bend it enough to make it want to kick over. Also, did he hit something at any point during the stage? Did he lay it on something before he started the race? You've got all sorts of factors that could have played a role in that. You'd like to think if something was wrong with the bike, you would have noticed it long before he got to the end of the stage. If something was wrong
with the bike, he probably would have been caught on film screaming at his mechanic.
That's true. That's very true.
Because
he's got a track record of that.
We've seen it before. And maybe he's taken a different approach into this, what may or may not be his last tour, and said, hey, I'm going to mellow out. I'm going to enjoy things. Whatever happens, happens. It's an unfortunate incident, but it did happen. And I think if he was going to point fingers at a mechanic or deflect blame, we would have seen it. And he just took it like, yeah, it happened. It sucks.
I don't think he really thought it was a mechanic. I didn't get that feeling from him.
No, I didn't at all. And I think it was very nice to see that he, he was disappointed about it, but he wasn't like pissed about it.
Yeah.
Because a guy like that, he doesn't have to get the record. He's going to go down as the greatest sprinter of all time.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit who you compare him to.
Cipollini?
Not even close. Blows Cipollini out of the water. Not in douchebagism, but in actual
two
wins.
words I never wanted to have happen on this podcast. Yeah, blows Cipollini.
Well, there you go. We're setting new precedences here, folks. But yeah, it was nice to see that he took it graciously and accepted the defeat that it was, not knowing that the next day he would not be in the race a third of the way through the stage.
Right.
That was sad. That was very sad.
Yeah.
I actually didn't watch that. I haven't seen that stage. I didn't watch that point.
Sitting around in the back, and something happened in front of him, and a chain reaction, and he ended up on the ground.
I think that's why I didn't go and watch it. I don't want to see it happen.
You didn't. Nobody really caught it.
Yeah,
the cameras didn't catch
it. What there you saw a wheel touch something up further in the pack, but nobody went down, and then the next thing you see is he's on the ground. So you don't actually see what directly caused.
Yeah,
the
I don't think there
crash.
was like an overhead helicopter shot, where
No.
like some of them where 90% of the peloton gets taken
But
out.
he put out a video yesterday on
Yeah.
Twitter and seemed like he was in really good spirits.
Yeah, he had
So-
just gotten surgery. Seems good. I think he's going to come back because if
I don't know, man.
I'm a competitor like him,
the commitment, not only for him but his whole family,
The
to
training,
everything.
the time.
Oh, I
I am
mean,
not going out like that.
Well,
I'm not going out like that. And my only focus is 3 weeks in July.
But
That's
I
it.
mean, to your point though, he's got nothing left to prove.
He doesn't, but
Right.
I would want to go out on my terms, not hitting the deck like that.
But did you notice though? I mean, he looked really sad afterwards in all the
Oh,
pictures
yeah.
that everybody caught. He also, there's something else I've noticed about him post wreck. He looks relieved.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't seem to have a
He's-
weight on his
Yeah,
shoulders.
it's not sour apples.
No.
It's not, or sour grapes. Sorry, it's not. Being pissed off. To your point, it's not throwing a fit. It honestly looks. He looks almost the happiest and healthiest I've seen him, and well, obviously not without the shoulder,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he honestly looks like a weight's been taken off of him.
I mean, if he decides not to return, that's fantastic.
And thoughts now.
We'll miss him. I'll miss him.
Thoughts
Yeah.
now are nothing compared to what happens in December. But
Right. Right. I mean, it's got to be a long, hard conversation with his family.
if you're him, put yourself in his place. Are you happy with what Vinokurov did?
I would like to think that Vinokurov would have consulted with Mark before making an announcement like that, but I'm sure he didn't.
I don't think he did.
I'm
No, I
sure
don't think he
that
did.
was like his way of saying, we want you to come back.
yeah.
We need you to come back. We need that record with you and an Astana kit.
I think for me, it came across more as I'm paying my respects to you. Like,
that's kind of how I saw it.
Yeah.
Was just like,
In that
hey,
very-
the door's still open if you change your mind. if
Eastern European kind of way.
Yeah.
you, right.
Like we're paying our respects to you. I think honestly, it would have been, from my point of view, it would have been nicer to Cav, would have been nicer to him if Vino hadn't have said anything,
Yeah.
or if he would have said, well, ultimately that's up to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something like that, like
And
deflect.
we need to, there's a lot of things to talk
Yeah.
about in the off season, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Because even if he was like 100% like, oh yeah, dude, if he's back, I'd love to have him. Even if that is truly his stance, he really needs to give Cav an opportunity to be able to bow out.
Yeah.
Because right now, even let's take the bad point of view. Let's say that Vino wasn't completely serious about doing it,
Yeah.
but was just making a gesture. But now, Cav's like, well, gee, and he's considered it enough. And now he's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm coming back. But then in December, Vino's like, yeah, that's a nice thought, but, money didn't come through the way that I thought it would. And
Well, time will tell. I mean, we can sit here and talk about this for an hour, but we'll find out next year.
we do have a podcast.
That's what you do. You sit around and talk about things for an hour.
Our point is
There's
to sit
so
around
many
and talk about
interesting
things
things
for
to
an hour.
talk about. Like, who can beat Phillipson?
I looked
Nobody.
I looked at
Cav
my
was.
phone.
I think Cav was the only one that could.
I looked at my phone because I just got a text from the race director of the West Dundee race for Intelligentsia.
Don't deflect.
Do you think Grimay?
He won't get one.
I think he's close. I think I can see it maybe next year. I think this is his first full-on
Tour experience.
tour experience, which is a little different.
Well,
and-
if he did the Giro and had to leave because he
Yeah.
popped a cork straight in his eyeball. You didn't see that? You remember that?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he didn't even make a full Grand Tour. But yeah, he definitely will get one in the future for sure.
He's
Yeah.
been close.
He's been close.
I think he's
He's in the right place.
I don't think he's used to the amount of physicality at these sprint finishes.
I think Pedersen will get another one.
I would love to see
This
that.
year, yeah.
Yes, I would love.
He's
to see
the only
that.
one to beat Jasper straight up.
Absolutely everything that I've seen from
It needs
everybody
to be a
associated with
unique
it.
kind of finish.
It's got to be a little uphill.
A little uphill, and I think, yeah,
He's a beast of a man.
Yeah,
He's-
I love watching him race.
He's a
Yeah.
good bike rider.
Yeah.
But he's got an awesome lead out guy in Jesper Stuyven.
Mm-hmm.
So he's no slouch either.
I was kind of hoping Jakobsen would recover and come back around, but
He
he's
gone.
out.
He's
out.
apparently looking
He's
for a
out.
new team.
Lefevre kicked him off, gave him the boot on the rest day. You're out.
Yeah, I heard that. That's
But he's actually really excited because apparently he's already signed with the team.
DSM,
Yeah.
or at least rumored to be DSM, which is weird because they have Sam Welsford, who's also a sprinter, and Degenkolb.
I heard somebody talking about that, but it's
So,
supposedly that's figured out.
so Caleb Ewan.
oh yeah, I forgot. I can't
don't know,
believe I
man.
forgot about him.
He is the most overhyped guy to not come through. It's like, yeah, he's fast. He's always there,
He's got no lead out.
but he's just not
He
getting
doesn't
it
have a
done.
lead out train.
He is a lead out train. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He does better as a lead out than he does as a finisher. That's in my opinion.
He's been close, but
Well,
this is the longest I think he's gone in a tour without crashing out.
that's a good thing.
So he's got that on his side. But there is 20 guys on any given day in this tour that could win. It's crazy. Sprinters,
Yeah.
that is. Sprinters. Excuse me. Biggest field of sprinters I've seen in a long time.
And I love the courses here. All the stages, there weren't as many flat dumbass sprinter stages at the beginning like they've always done. I really like how it came out punching.
Yeah. It was good. The one where Jakobsen crashed on the motorway on the racetrack couldn't have been any wider, smoother, or safer. And there was more crashes there than there was on the city street finish.
But
It's
as
crazy.
we know, those kinds of courses tend to have more crashes because of that.
They're
Yeah.
going exponentially faster.
Faster, and maybe they assume that it's safer, so they're not being as hyper vigilant
There's
as when
something
they
mental.
know
Yeah.
that you've got all this road furniture and tight turns,
Yeah.
and you're just like super super careful. And now it's like, we got
He hit the deck pretty hard.
there was
Pretty hard.
There were three major wrecks
Yeah.
in the last
In
Yeah.
that last
or
little
something.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been exciting thus far. I think
Does Nielsen stay in the polka dot?
I do not think so.
I thought I would see more for him today to go rack up a lot more points to give him a bigger buffer.
He struggled out of the rest day and continued it into today. So
Didn't he go pick up a bunch of points after the rest day, or was that just before the rest day?
just before.
Just
Okay.
before.
Yeah, because he didn't show up the day after the rest day. A lot of guys didn't, but that stage was hard. I mean, they're all hard, really.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I think some are kind of easy.
I think Pogacar's biding his time and is going to drop a bomb on Jumbo and Vingegaard.
So Jumbo, I think we would all agree, Jumbo's not showing up this year in the way that we would think that they would.
You're right. And
No.
I'm not really sure how to put my finger on it. Some of the tactics kind of leave me confused, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not, but
You would like to think that maybe they've got some master plan going, but I really don't think that that's the case.
I think, if Wout's not up the road, Tisha's up the road, and several times throughout this tour, I've seen two Jumbo guys up the road, two guys in the back, and Jonas is left in the washing machine in the middle to fend for himself. I'm like, what's going on here?
well, I see a lot of Tade sitting on Jonas's wheel, and it should seem like it would be the other way around.
You would think. I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit beforehand. I think that probably the best thing, and I just kind of threw it out here, I think the best thing in the world for Tade is the fact that Jonas won last year. I think that if Tade had won last year, he would be in this tour under that I got to win every tour I enter kind of mode. I think the fact that he's lost one now, he's got nothing to lose. And he's actually relaxed and enjoying it. And the pressure's on Jonas. It's not on Tade.
Right.
And we all feel that way.
I think even when the pressure is on Tade handles it way better than
Yeah.
Jonas.
He's got an extra year dealing with it.
Yeah. But I think it's just his personality in general.
Yeah.
He seems very, like, when the pressure's on, he just seems like he deflects it with humor and looseness, it seems like. based
Yeah.
off what you see in the media. But I think he's going to drop a bomb, and it's going to be a big one. Because he's got those, 2,000 meters from the line, he lights it up and gets a huge gap.
He's been explosive at the right times this year. Now, granted, if it was really at the right times, he'd be in the yellow. But he's been explosive at certain times, and you're not seeing the response from Jonas that you would expect to see.
Yeah.
You're seeing him respond eventually, and he's got the strength and he's there, but it seems like he's left a door open.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to keep leaving the door open.
It's like Leah said, the Jumbo is not as strong as they were last year, for sure. And I think that's probably, you're missing that the Roglic element. And even though he won the Giro and might be tired, he still could have came in.
Get it? Hi.
He could have came in late second week and been a huge factor in saving it in the third week.
Yeah, they should have brought him for sure. Now that we're looking at what's going on, they definitely should have brought him. And you were saying earlier, Sepp isn't. He's there. He's doing his job the way that he's supposed to be doing his job. But for me, my point of view, I don't think he's as dynamic as what he was last year or even the year before. And it doesn't seem like he's got as much as he's had in the past. He's doing his job.
Oh, he's definitely doing his job.
He's there when he needs to be there, but it's nothing more. There were last year, maybe. Did he win a stage last year or the year before? 21 or 22, he won a stage.
I think 21.
Yeah.
I think it was 21.
I don't think it was last
that year, he really was looking. And it seemed like he still was standing out and had that personality last year, regardless of whether or not he won a stage. I don't see any of that this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just blending into the background. He's doing his job, and he's there when he needs to be there, but he's blending into the background.
Yeah.
And that's different. But average power for the Tour, for these riders, up higher than they've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I still am one of those guys of really what data are you really seeing? I don't know enough about that to be able to tell you whether or not they're seeing the truth or not. But with whatever measures they were using, they're saying they're seeing higher power numbers than they've ever seen in the Tour. Red lights, any blinkies go off for you guys, or just, that's the way it is?
Well, I think there's the obvious one that everybody is pointing fingers at, and that's doping.
Is it? Is it doping? Or?
I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that dark cloud has gone away from cycling, or at least that's my hope, but you never know. The equipment's gotten better. The athlete has gotten younger, is stronger. The science behind the sport is improved. The nutrition is improved. Yep. The people, the personnel, the staffing personnel it's all improved from A to Z. So it only makes sense that the numbers are what they are.
I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were talking about how everything is just so different now. It's like everything is serious. Everything is intervals. Everything is just like structure. Where 10 years ago it was not quite there. So I just think we're seeing a lot of that. I think we're just seeing that everything, like every millimeter is being taken into account now on everything. And the science just keeps making things better and better and better. I mean, obviously we know enough by now that you can't rule out the possibility of doping.
I mean, doping is a spectrum.
And it is a spectrum. You're right. Yes. But I just think the science on everything, like Tim said, is just they just get more and more dialed. I fear
it's
at the point of taking any enjoyment out of it.
That's right.
It's the beats. I mean, at some point, do you suck 100% of the fun out of it for everybody, or is that some people's version of fun? I don't know.
I thought the fun 100% of the fun was sucked out of it years ago. I'm actually, from what I'm seeing in the racing, it seems like the racers are having more fun than they were even 10 or 15 years ago. 10 or 15 years ago, it had this like dark cloud hanging over it.
Yeah.
A lot of that was the doping that was going on and the extents. That's why when I see the riders now, see their attitudes now, see their camaraderie, back then it was everybody had their own camps. You didn't intermingle. You were friends, but you didn't like it's not like it is today.
And there was a strict hierarchy
Yeah.
in things
Yeah.
that nobody was allowed to play or do anything outside of this is how things
That
are
shit's
supposed
gone.
to work. It's gone. You
Yeah.
know, it you know, definitely Wout blew it up last
Yeah.
year, I felt like, and that was awesome to see. Even the year before, we just and if nothing else, I mean, aside from Phillipsen and the sprint finishes, we're seeing different riders win, you know,
Yeah.
each day. We're
Yeah.
not seeing, you know, one or two dominating everything. It seems and it feels a lot more human.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I totally agree.
I agree. I like to see the. I like to see.
I don't think that would be there if they were doping.
No.
I think they're more open about it and more. I think it's more the nutritional aspect, it's more the training aspect, it's more the recovery aspect, and it's not these silos of information that they feel they have to protect at all costs.
I think it's a lot to do with the science of knowing the individual, because back a decade ago, you know, the DS or whoever could approach the athlete and go, you know what, you're not cutting it. Here, I'm going to stick you with this. Whereas now they look at an athlete that has some shortcomings, they hone in on those shortcomings, they figure out what's going on in the athlete's body in its entirety, and weed some things out and bring some new things in, stimulate some new training methods that they maybe have not been accustomed to, and that's elevating their performance and making them a better athlete without having to use the drugs.
The nutrition is getting very specific to the individual.
Yeah.
You know, how much salt do you need versus not?
Did you hear that calculation?
Yes.
Oh my goodness!
I didn't.
They did a report, because I watch the World feed. I don't watch the American feed.
Me too.
And Nico Roach was giving information on how, as Leah was saying, how much, you know, an athlete needs. What did you eat during the day? How many bars? How many bottles of ISO of this or that of water? Then they calculate it all, and based off of that and knowing all your other numbers, they cater your recovery meal to that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's hyper personalized.
And that's what I think I'm getting at, is that tuning of the nutrition.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, the, hey, it's the tour, eat more, you know.
Eat more pasta.
Well, but, and if you look at the old days, the other major complaints were like the hotels sucked. They always sucked. They didn't have AC.
Only the big budget teams could afford the good stuff.
And now what you're finding is that, and I've heard this in multiple places now, they take their beds and they move their beds from hotel to hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
So you're always sleeping in your bed.
Yeah.
And if the rooms don't have AC, they have window air conditioners that they plug in so that they all have AC and can cool down and get a good night of sleep, because of how important that is to the overall. How many times has Mike mentioned it?
Yeah.
You know, where he didn't get a good night of sleep and that kind of affected things. And so it's like, I don't know, is it all these little marginal gains, so to speak, to borrow the phrase, really adding up to this, or is there something nefarious afoot? We're not going to know for a lot of years, but what's everybody's bet?
I'm gonna say that it's the science and everything. I'm gonna rest my laurels on that.
On marginal gains.
Me too.
Yeah.
Totally.
I would like to say it's on marginal gains. There's a fatalist part of me that always feels like in the back of my head, we'll find out something different.
It's cycling. How could you not think that? You know,
I mean,
there's definitely a snippet that thinks that.
Even
For
in
me,
my
5 times, shame on whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever since I've started down my journey as an athlete, I completely nerd out on everything having to do with health and nutrition, and especially as it applies to recovery and performance and everything. And it just seems like there's so much more that we know now. And it's like, we just keep getting smarter and keep getting smarter. And the things I learned about, 5-10 years ago, have some of it still there and some of it's been replaced by other things that we've now learned, and we just keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So we're going to see athletic performances across the board in all sports are just going to continue to get better and better.
It's interesting that you say it's incrementally getting better, whereas if you think about it, for a lot of years we had so many differing views on all of these training aspects. Oh, it had to all be this way, and everybody be in that camp for a couple of years until a new thought camp would come out, and then they would all jump stream and jump onto the other one, which was almost diametrically opposed to it. And it never really seemed like it was really changing the net outcome of anything.
Well, I think the big thing that I'm seeing now is that we're becoming more customized with everything. It's no longer this is the way that we all believe everybody should do it now. Now it's understanding that everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's their own special snowflake. Let's figure out which snowflake you are, because we can actually analyze things and look at data, and we can customize for you. I think we're entering the age of more and more customization based on individual differences.
I think I've thrown this out here before. Correct me if I haven't, but I think we're kind of, I've been noticing we're definitely going away from the classic trend of periodization training. It seems like to me. Not that periodization doesn't work. I think it works extremely well when you're really dialed on it. It's also a one-way formula of burning people out. But it seems like they're not. While Van Aert is approaching his season using periodization, there's no real off season for him. And yet he's still able to be there to tweak. He has down times where he's not on, and he's got times where he's on. That's evident. But maybe it's just me, but it seems like the modern era is not a periodization or traditional era. Would you guys agree, disagree?
I personally have certainly gone away from it. There's absolutely nothing periodized about anything I do in the gym, on the bike, or in terms of food or anything. It's an ebb and flow based on how I'm feeling, what I have going on right now. Tweaks, I don't do like standard 3-week builds, 1 week off. It's like I take the recovery when I need it. And it's just getting more and more dialed into listening to my body and what I need, because what I need to do for me as an athlete not only is different from everybody else, but also changes from year to year for me. So I think more and more people I'm seeing adopting that approach, as opposed to the more rigid, this is the plan. We do these 3 weeks, we do 1 week, I'm seeing less and less of that. I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
I would agree. I think I think the science behind it all, and like you said, every individual athlete is themselves, and they need to do things different than their teammates. So each program is structured to their strengths and their weaknesses, and that's how you build, the team or the puzzle, which is essentially your team. That's how you build the strongest team, by catering to each individual puzzle piece and making the strongest team or the strongest puzzle you can for when it really matters in a Grand Tour situation. But I think lately, for me personally, I've taken the approach that you have. I had a coach for the last couple of years. I parted ways with him just because I'm a terrible athlete to coach. And I kind of always want to do things my way. And I feel like I've been in the game long enough and am a student enough of it to know that, okay, this is what I want to do this year. This is kind of how I got to loosely base what I'm going to do, and do certain things at certain points of the year. But I don't really stick to too much of that, like you, the three on, 1 off type of thing, especially at this point of the year. Like maybe party foul. Maybe in the earlier part of the year, like January, February, March, maybe I'll stick to a more of a program like that, just with base and stuff like that. But when it comes to when the racing season starts to kind of kick in, at least around here, I kind of use my knowledge and what I know and racing to get fit.
Right.
Right. I'm not saying that's the way that the World Tour guys do it, But that's kind of just the way I've been doing things on my own, and it seems to be working. At least I'm having more fun doing it that way, and it doesn't feel so cumbersome and just like you're chasing numbers and you're trying to chase sensations and feelings, and then when you don't see them, you're getting bummed out and discouraged, and you start to question all these things. And it's just like, just go out and ride your bike however you feel like you can ride it that day. If you feel great, put in some hard efforts. If you don't, just cruise at endurance pace. It's all going to pay off. You're out there riding. It's going to pay off.
Yep. Absolutely.
Besides, I don't really ever think I was very good at periodization. I never really understood it, and I still don't try to chase like the latest and greatest trends, training trends.
I think a big thing with periodization was that it, for me, and you guys can obviously disagree with me, it seemed like to me like it was the first real, truly formalized approach that could be given, that could become formulaic for each individual rider, and could produce visible results for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really and I would still argue you can put anybody in a periodization schedule, and if you deploy it correctly, you will see improvements with them. I still believe, though, in any athlete other than the most dedicated athlete, the ability to actually deploy it effectively reduces immensely. And it is like a one-way ticket to burnout for anybody that isn't a completely dedicated athlete.
Yeah.
Like even some of the most dedicated, like if you look at some of those, periodization really helped those tweaked masters guys. I'll say the Vision Quest style guys is what I'm going at. This is the older guy who isn't even really racing, but wants to peak and be the best of their physical potential and all this and that.
Wants to win the town line sprint.
Yeah, basically. And periodization works immensely well for that kind of person because they're usually highly organized people that need rigid training structure and need to be told what to do.
Triathletes.
Yes, triathletes
because
especially.
You'll have like 2 to 4 main races in a year, so it makes sense when you're doing any random bike race any given weekend or every other weekend, and then you can't really organize a season.
And we still
that around that.
We still use the basic periodization inputs as our baseline. So we utilize some of the fatigue information and or form information, CTL, ATL, TSB. We use those as indicators in a more modern approach,
right?
Almost as our gauges on the dashboard to kind of figure out, oh, okay, well that makes sense, that kind of thing. But I think that's why periodization was so popular, is because you really can textbook set out and go follow X, Y, and Z. And if you do it, you're going to have results. And if you don't follow, and if you don't have results, it's because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. It worked both directions. So the athlete, the coach could go to the athlete and say, well, I can get you results. I know how to get you results. It's X, Y, and Z. And then, in 6 months when the athlete was pissed because they didn't get the results, they could go, well, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Because it's such a rigid structure that you can very easily, upon reflection, go, well, that may have happened because you didn't check this checkbox on this fifth set of that, interval for this.
Or conversely, you overdid it.
Well, and let's be honest, most amateur cyclists and triathletes just want to go too hard all the time. And they don't know how to rest. They don't know how to modulate those efforts. And if they don't have a program to follow, they're just going to go out and just grind the gears constantly and then wonder why the heck they can't perform on race day.
So you're saying I'm not like most athletes.
they're the PJs of the world. That just can't help but just go hard every time he swings his leg over a bike. He just can't help himself.
Well, that's his
just
fault.
Like, I don't think the man's ever done a recovery ride
No.
legitimately in his life.
I don't know for a fact, but I would lay odds that you're correct on that one, 100%. Yeah,
Love you, PJ.
we've
Love
all
you,
seen
PJ.
it. We've all seen it. The riders that go hard all the time, for sure. So yeah, I mean, having a periodization. I think you're trying to say having a periodization.
Yeah, because I think most athletes are just not really going to naturally just kind of like listen to their bodies and understand when to just not
build in recovery.
Right. So if they don't have that regimented thing laid out for them, even though something else a little bit more flexible might work best for them, but at least this is better than what they were doing before, which was just grinding. And
it's really difficult to relay the message from coach to athlete and stress the importance of a rest day, or a recovery week. Because like you said, the athlete that started out, just kind of doing whatever, and then found a coach and started to get results and see his or her trajectory go up.
They don't want to see the plateau.
They don't want to see the plateau, and they don't understand that they need the downtime in order to take the next ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard message to get across, and a harder thing to have the athlete actually do. But once the athlete, does it and sees the benefit of it, they'll want it more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm as guilty of that as anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't consider myself an athlete in that regard, but I do track everything, and I do have all those indicators.
Yeah.
And I've been putting a ton of miles in this year for me, and I like seeing. I've got data that goes back to like 2007, so I can actually see my changes over the years. And I can compare back to where I was when I was racing, and my CTL, or overall shape form, whatever you want to call it, is higher than it's been, really honestly, since I raced, since like maybe 2012, 2013 ish.
Nice.
And it was because I was sitting here going, okay, post COVID, I hit like a 40 something. That sucks. I get it, but I've been as low as 0. I think you've seen me at 0 or like 5 or something like that in the off season.
When was the last time you rode?
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm just having fun riding, going out, trying to ride as much as I can. I've explained it to a couple of people, but it's one of these where what got me riding again right before COVID was the year before it was going to the doctor and going, oh crap, okay, I need to get back and ride again. So riding, I'm down like 60 pounds, I think, overall from where I was at that point. But I went back like 2 months ago, and even though I'm at where I'm at, and I'm still almost near like a post-COVID bottom for my weight, is looking at some of those indicators and going, I've still got a couple issues that are just nagging me.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it, that goes away if I lose weight.
Yeah.
And so finally just being like, and I know I lose weight if I just ride.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to ride. I know that I actually get less hungry if I ride. I have to make myself eat, which means I can eat smaller meals and eat them more frequently and eat the right thing and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why that. I think it's a blood sugar thing, honestly.
Could be. Yeah.
When I get into that realm. But so I've been putting on the mileage, and next thing I know, I never look at Training Peaks, but it all automatically uploads. I open up Training Peaks and I go, oh, I'm on this really good upward trajectory, like really good one. And if I keep this up, I'm on par to really hit a peak that I haven't seen in like a decade. Next thing you know, I'm like, I'm going for a ride tomorrow. Hey, can I go for 3 hours? Hey, we're shutting down the shop early. Sorry, that kind of thing. Been doing a lot of that. I can feel though, and I think I've said it to you guys, I now understand fully what the whole base thing is. I've got base coming out the yin yang. I can ride a bike for like 8 hours straight, not even bat an eye. I'm comfortable on it. I can keep going on it. my food on it's fine, water's fine, all that. I got all that nailed. No speed whatsoever. So it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next phase.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to add either, some interval work if I really, or some SST or threshold work if I really want to do that, which I don't want to do that, or some deeper VO2 kind of stuff just to throw it in there to really pick up the speed at this point. Looking at the other numbers where my fatigue is and everything else like that, I know in my heart of hearts I should probably take a little bit of time off. Like, it wouldn't kill me if I went a week and didn't get a lot of rides in, only got like 2 rides in or something like that. I'd be okay, and I'd probably be able to build from there. But I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that climb. If I were to see that plateau at this point, it might be depressing enough to me that I would stop riding.
You're either going to plateau or your decline is going to be as steep as your ramp.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be like,
you're talking about your CTL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roughly.
So here's the thing that I will tell you, in my personal opinion. CTL favors volume. If you start doing short, hard intervals, you need to get rid of the volume, and that pretty little graph is going to stop going up, but you will get faster.
Yeah. And I know that. You and I have talked about this before.
You just got to not look at that.
I understand that intelligently. It's the emotional side of me that when I see that, I'm going to feel like I'm going backwards.
So just look at the number. Don't look at the graph.
Don't look at any of it. Just come up with a plan of what you need to do to get faster and worry about that. It's like, okay, I'm going to go do those same intervals this week that I did last week, and let's see if I can do them faster. And do it again the next week.
I know I need to do it. I need to get worked in. All I got to say is if I figure this out, all you slow ass motherfuckers at the back of the 45 plus cross race, I may not finish last anymore. I may finish third from last or fourth from last.
Look out.
Better get on those intervals now.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah.
Like yesterday.
Yeah.
No, it's July. You're still good.
I still got some time.
Yeah, it's not
Considering
August 1st,
I've never trained for it.
It's not August 1st yet.
Ever. Yeah, nothing says cyclocross quite like August 1st.
Or in this case, July 31st, which I think is the first day after the last day of Intelli.
What?
Yeah.
The last day of Intelli is July 30th, so cross starts July 31st.
Oh, you guys put your.
Have you never heard that from us?
I don't know. No.
It's an old thing, but basically, for this area, road is done as soon as Intelli is done.
Except that it's not actually,
it's not.
Because I would like to go do Edwardsville this year.
Yeah, and then we've got
Gateway.
Yes.
And I think more people are actually going to do it. We didn't have enough races here this year, so I think a lot of people are actually going to go and seek out those later in the season road stuff. I think there's going to be more gravel stuff worked in there than we've had before. And I can't recall. Somebody asked me earlier today. I cannot recall what the cross schedule here looks like for this year, but I want to say I think we're starting instead of late August, early September. I think we're back a week or two from where we normally are. So we'd be more in that mid to late September range before we actually start. Don't hold me to that. I don't have any special
Starts
inside
in September,
knowledge.
ends in November.
Yeah, but we have added some races this year, so there's 2 more races on. I keep saying the 2. I got to watch that. Don't hold me to that. And obviously this is public. But we have at least 1 more race this year. That one we know about. The other one is kind of in flux. Like I told somebody, oh, hey, this race is going to be around. And that person went and talked to the person that used to put that race on
and said, no,
and said, hey, so I hear this is coming back. And they're like, not to my knowledge, and it's like, well, but some things have changed and maybe that's not the case. And maybe that still is coming back, but who knows? How's that for some CCC gossip?
Well, Trek CXC, the Trek Cup.
Is it actually happening?
It is mid-October.
That's why we are starting a little bit farther back.
Yeah.
So after the Trek Cup or before?
No, it won't be before, but we used to wait. Kind of where Trek fell year over year, we would either push some races before it or push the races until after it.
Mm.
So it just kind of, and last year I want to say we pushed them until after, because I want to say that it was mid-September maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Or
when
we
Trek
no
was.
we
Yeah,
had
it was
we had
October.
2 races early last year,
Right.
1 or 2 races early last year, and then we had this like 3-week gap, and Trek and whatever the other one was were worked in there. Jingle, is it Jingle?
Jingle didn't happen.
Jingle didn't happen last year,
Jingle's
did it?
done.
But it didn't happen last year.
No, Arkansas. They went to
Arkansas. Arkansas.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had an open weekend,
which is
last
done.
year.
Now we are. I have not seen. I probably have missed this or I've forgotten about it. But are these World Cups or not? Do we know yet?
Trek is.
Trek is for
Trek
sure a
is.
World Cup.
Arkansas.
Arkansas is not.
It's
not happening.
It's not happening.
So we have 1 World Cup left. It's Trek. I did see an email that they were getting ready to open Reg or something for Trek, I think. So it's happening, I guess. Is this the last year? Or do you think they're going to put a World Cup in the U.S. with only 1 race next year?
I think it will depend on the amount of European riders that come over for Trek this year. Obviously, the Trek team will be here because it's their sponsor and they go for the World Cup. But if the numbers aren't there, why is Trek like, yeah, and the UCI might step in and be like, you know what, this isn't worth it, and they're probably searching out different countries and
I'm sure
and cities to go, because I think did they release the UCI World Cup calendar? I think I saw something,
they did.
And there's a whole bunch of new locations on there.
So you put all that together and you look at the position where Trek is right now.
Yeah.
If they yank the World Cup from them, does the Trek Cup continue?
The Trek Cup goes back to being what the Trek Cup used to be before it was the World Cup.
I don't see it happening that way, though. I want to agree with you. I thought it was great before it was a World Cup.
It'll be like Jingle Cross, just kind of there, much less participation.
It was a bunch of us hanging out in the parking lots at the Trek headquarters.
There you go.
I miss those days.
I miss those days. I really do miss
Really
those
do.
days. That had a different flavor to it. I don't dislike what it is now.
No.
I think it's one of the best shows that we have access to.
Yeah.
Better than even Jingle ever was, in my opinion, although Jingle had some really good years.
Jingle Cross was its own vibe.
Yeah.
Man.
It's different.
Yeah. Racing at night.
Yeah.
With the crowds that come up there. It was cool. I did
the
it a few
rash
times.
from all the poop in the the mud on that hill.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because it was always like, guys, how do you think they got a hill in the middle of a
Right. Right.
What do you think that hill is made out of?
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be curious to see overall what happens to cyclocross in America. Period.
Yeah, it's
Dying.
I don't think we've ever mixed words on that one. We all think that it's going down in terms of participation, in terms of its popularity, whatever way you want to phrase it. At the same time, I don't have that existential dread in me about it that I had when Road was going through that.
Right.
I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm actually ready for the scene to be smaller. I'm ready for it to be some fun races and a smaller crowd and just doing our thing.
So Trek is actually the opener for the World Cups. It's the first one,
Mm-hmm.
the first World Cup race.
And when is it? October?
October 15th.
Wow.
And
Okay,
then
so
it
it's
goes
late.
to Belgium, France, Ireland, France, Italy,
Oh, they had one in
Belgium,
Ireland last year.
Belgium.
The Ireland race was
Belgium,
good.
Netherlands,
That's
Belgium,
what I heard.
Spain, Netherlands. So yeah.
But remains to be seen again.
So I keep going back to this whole idea of the beds being transported for the teams and everything, and talking about recovery for the guys in the tour. And it just, the one thing that keeps going back to me, like we said, the hotels back in the day used to be horrible. They used to be just horrible places to stay. You had the guys that went over to Europe from America. A lot of them just didn't make it because they couldn't take the homesickness. They couldn't stand after a while being in the culture, being lost, not speaking the language. If you weren't quick at picking it up, it created problems. You couldn't call home, unless you had a pile of coins to make the phone call, and then later had a calling card, knew how to use it when you were in that country. There were a lot of obstacles that we always laugh about it because Europeans coming to America for the World Cup at Trek, they run into those obstacles, and they usually complain about them and are very vocal about them. And Americans go, guys, we've been doing that, for 30 years, going over to Europe and trying to compete. Which is a great segue into, I don't know if I've told the story about running into Sven Nys at the gas station. So we're at the World Cup one year, and we're stopping by the gas station to gas up. I have to run in and grab something, but while we're there, car pulls up, bunch of young people in it, and I see a bald guy hop out, run around, and I take a quick look, and it's Sven. And I see him over there. I'm like, hey guys, Sven's right over there. He's filling up the car, this and that. I notice he runs inside, comes back out, doing something else, runs back inside again, comes back out. Does it like 3 or 4 times. Okay. I'm like, wow, they got something going on or something. And I go inside to get something. It was a case of beer. Anyway, I get to the counter to check out. And I'm in line, stuff like that. And he came in one more time to like do something. He said something to the guy and then like ran out. And then when I got up there, I just couldn't wait. I was like, bristling with energy, doing that whole, I won't say hi to Sven because I don't want to be a bother. But to the guy sitting behind the counter at the gas station, I'm like, oh my God, do you have any idea who that was? And so I did that. I was like, do you have any idea who that guy is? And he's like, no. And so I tell him, I'm like, God, multi-time world champion. He's cyclocross this and that. And he's in town because of the Trek thing. And he's like royalty in Belgium is what I said. And he goes, well, that explains it. I go, what? He goes, he couldn't figure out how to pump his own gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, very appropriate. So those are the kind of, to me, the obstacles that, the foreign riders coming into a different culture really run into. It's the little things. It's never the big things. It's always like how do I could really go for a piece of cheese. How do I get cheese around here? Something like that. How do I make a phone call home? Yet today we have the modern conveniences of connectivity 24 hours a day anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You've got, anybody in Europe. Hell, I got 3 texts this morning from Europe. That's unheard of for me. The way that I think about the world. Obviously, it's not unheard of. People have been doing it for years. But the connectivity is there. The ability to now go to a hotel room, sleep in a common bed, whether or not it's the one from home, but it's a bed that you sleep in all the time and you're used to, have air conditioning in it. Maybe you're not at the best motel in the world, but you at least have the basic creature comforts. You have your laptop, you have internet access. You can do a Zoom call back home, 6-hour difference or whatever. So they're, up still, going in their evening as you're getting ready to go to bed, that kind of thing. And you can have almost all the creature comforts of home. We've said for a long time that the future of getting riders from America back over into Europe has been singular organizations and this and that. I would argue that the barrier now has been reduced so much that it's got to be a lot less detrimental for younger riders from the United States to go over, either take a flyer over there and just give it a shot on their own, to walk into. You always hear the stories. I've known some people that have gone over and done their thing in Belgium for a year, just trying to make a go of it, doing all the local kermesses and all that kind of stuff. You got to think that that's getting easier, at least with less obstacles. And is that the future of where we're going? Or I've heard people say that what we really need is a concentrated team organization that really takes us through all those steps and moves us there with the talent.
I think it's too hard to fund it on your own, to just try to make a flyer, to just try to take a flyer and do it on your own. It's too, the logistics are not easy. The funding is very expensive. Unless you have a friend that lives over there that can hold your hand and shepherd you through all the hard times, or gives you a place to stay, gives you a home base for however long you're there, I think it's too hard to do individually. So my opinion would be that, yes, there needs to be some kind of pipeline established.
So we kind of what got into some of this is, yes, another podcast was talking about, how you fix the American situation in the sport. And their general idea was something along the lines of what Sky did
Right.
in the UK. And Sky was kind of, to my knowledge, was a kind of a shotgun approach. They had the British Cycling Association was putting a lot of time and money and effort into helping to make sure velodromes got built, that they had talent ID programs, that they had a bunch of stuff going on. And then Sky became that pipeline for picking up the riders and getting them into the programs that they wanted. When I was growing up in this, and you were in the BMX world, so it may, I mean, I'm sure you didn't have this.
None of that existed when I raced.
But we all aspired to be on 7-Eleven. And I'm kind of going here because, 2 days ago was 7-Eleven day, 7-Eleven to us.
Did you get your Slurpee?
I did not. The kids did.
Oh, good for them. Good parenting.
I wasn't there. 7-Eleven was, it represented this pinnacle of achievement that we wanted to all reach and get to. That was, if you're an American, you wanted to be on 7-Eleven. It wasn't an all-American team. They had foreign riders on there, a lot of North American riders, but they had foreign Canadians, Raul Alcala, Mexican, Dagato Lawrence, and, they had people from all over on the team, but it was the quintessential American team, and we all yearned to be on that team. I would argue we don't have that anymore.
We don't. Not to my knowledge.
I mean, I think that EF is supposed to, quote unquote, be that team, but I almost feel like JV is taking it to the point where EF is an exercise in his ego. And his ego is like, he wants to be European.
No.
Yeah. And that has resulted in very few, if any, real, I don't want to say real Americans, or real Americans. It has reduced to not a lot of American talent on the team anymore.
Yeah.
Arguably, I mean, he's got great riders on there, whatever. I mean, they're in the situation that they're in because of they've gotten the contracts that they have. But it doesn't, I don't see a lot of American riders at races going, God, I want to get a spot on EF.
No, I mean, just as late as last year, EF was struggling to hold their World Tour credentials.
Yeah. And they're going to continue to struggle on that.
Yeah,
one.
I think a lot of the American cyclists that are doing well in the modern peloton are on completely different non-American programs. I mean, look at them all.
And everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point, is that everyone has access to the same nutritional information. They're running their own programs. They're all curtailed to themselves. They have a coach here and there that are helping them depending on the situation. But do we need that rigid team structure to get it done? We're doing the little talent ID programs, whatever. If you want to say that that's the way to go, USA Cycling has programs. Anything USA Cycling does, at least they're doing something. But then 4,000 people will poo-poo whatever they decide to do, and it will go 20 steps back.
Well, here's something to think about. Hartley's got his own team. He's got his own Devo program, and his riders won like every single thing they entered at Toad.
Yes.
I think his Cat 2 kids, they entered and they won. They swept the whole thing. And now a great handful of those junior men are on a plateau. They're out racing currently, representing America. So that to me is that kind of that step. And we need programs like Hartley's program, the other programs that may exist. I can't remember the names off the top of my head.
Velo,
Hot Tubes is one of them. But those riders, that's kind of that avenue that those riders need to go down to be able to do races in different continents, on different continents in different countries, to get that next step.
I guess I'm saying generationally, though, for us, it would have been great. In our generation, we would have looked at, okay, now there's a shot of being on the American team in Europe. And that represented something to us. Sure, Greg LeMond wasn't on an American team, and he always did well, and he raced with a couple of Americans every now and then. He didn't need it. But for a lot of the riders, if you look at you can't think of 7-Eleven without thinking of Finney and God help me, Kiefel,
Mhm,
and
Ron Kiefel.
Hampston,
Yep.
and those guys being a unit and really playing off each other and helping each other. I mean, there's some races, some guys did well, those, but they kept kind of a core roster that went the distance for most of that.
Yeah.
And that kind of created that identity and team identity that as American cyclists we wanted to go to. And they had the farm teams here in the U.S. There was the amateur programs. You would, as a kid, roll up to a race and, oh my God, 7-Eleven's here. 7-Eleven. They had a junior program. Here's a couple juniors rolling up in 7-Eleven kits. That was intimidating as hell, when they'd roll up in those kits.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that. I don't know that we necessarily need that, because I think that today's youth, being, if you want to call them Gen Z or whatever, they're so non sequitur driven, like totally on their own kind of individual personalities. They got their own training programs. They do their own thing. They do all this and that. But you take like a Chad Hartley, who seems like he's
heavily invested in it,
and he's
invested in those
that.
kids. Yeah.
He's making it work.
Yeah, no, I watched him from a distance at Toad have some conversations with his riders, and he was spot on. He was there for them before, during, and after. I was impressed, and I was like, he's got something good here. And I think one of his female riders is just won I want to say a world championship on the track, or some track event. Pardon me, it slips my mind, but I did see it.
I saw something
on his social media channel, the team's social media page, and I'm like, he's doing it the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously got the top level experience to know how to do it and know what it takes. He's just got to spin it to today's youth, which he's
obviously
got the ability,
doing a good job.
Yeah, he's got the ability to do it.
Right.
It's interesting. I don't know. I
mean, I don't have the answer. I
don't know if that's the answer.
Yeah,
I hope it is.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Sorry, I don't know if that was a tangent, but that was something I wanted to go down during this one for sure. So, Tour, any predictions on who wins the overall before we wrap this up? 5 seconds.
I'm going to say Tade's going to take it.
I hate to say it, but I agree with you.
I say Vanderpool.
No. Tade's going to take it.
Not that I don't like Tade. I would like to see a dark horse. I would like to see, maybe not a dark horse, but somebody just like.
It's not.
You want to see somebody else get in the mix.
I want to see a surprise upset.
I mean, unless current third place Jai Hindley has a phenomenal day and the two front runners absolutely crumble or get into their own little beef where he just slips away again and gets all his time back.
Yeah.
That could happen.
Or who's sitting in?
I don't know who's in
fourth, fifth. I mean, I think Pidcock's somewhere in the top 10 now, but
does Pidcock take a run at it next year?
I don't know about next year, but in the next 5 years, he's definitely going to take a run at it.
God, he's so strong.
Yeah.
He's such a good racer.
I think right now he's absorbing and learning and developing, and I think
he's he's checking the boxes, getting through the races, taking notes, having conversations. And by the end of this tour and whatever next year looks like, he's going to have this notebook full of this. And not only that, but he's going to have the mental capacity to know that he can hang with and sometimes outperform his rivals. And he's got the ability to do it.
I'm just hoping to God he doesn't end up being one of those, once in a generation talents that we all go, oh my God, he's going to be the next GC contender for the tour. And he ends up getting burned out by all the pressure of it. I don't see him doing that, though.
I don't see it right now.
He's got a different attitude.
Yeah.
He's so good at everything else.
Yeah, he's got an ability to kind of deflect that no matter what discipline he's riding. Because when he shows up at a mountain bike race, he's got the target on his back. Yeah. Pidcock's here. He's the Olympic champion. He's the European mountain bike champion. Why don't we just basically give him the rainbow jersey? But that's not how it is. But he can deflect all that pressure.
Cross, it seems like he's not the favorite, and the pressure isn't on him because of that.
Yeah, he can just go out and ride his bike.
It's the Wout and Vanderpool show.
Who knows how much longer they have in it?
Yeah,
I would be surprised to see if they even raced like 5 races each this year.
They did a shortened season last year, right?
Yeah, Wow
Yeah.
only did like 9 races
Yeah.
and then left.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Matthew suffered some injury, so that put him on the sidelines.
Tell you what, you take riders like that and you take them away from cyclocross, and yeah, we're going to have some downtime in cyclocross. It's just, at least when you got some really good tour riders that are doing really well in cyclocross, it makes some people pay attention to it, and get kind of interested in it.
Yeah.
But I understand it, if they've got to do that.
Yep.
But
all right. Well, with that being said,
what about you?
Yes.
Who do you think?
No, I said Vanderpool.
Oh, he's
Okay, no, seriously. Wow. No. It's Toddy.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think Jonas. He obviously is an amazing racer. He's won the tour. He's got all sorts of potential and talent and this and that. He does not seem to have the depth in the well that he needs to have to beat Toddy right now.
Yeah.
The way he's riding.
I think that broken wrist that Toddy suffered allowed him to recover from the heavy spring campaign that he did and get all that fitness into his body, and he just had to race the first week of the tour, and now his body's starting to go
I think
the
that's
right
an
way.
Amazing point. I think you're dead on with that.
His body's going to and we may see unbelievable things in the third week.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. So hopefully we're, if you can't tell, we're on a 2-week schedule right now just because of what's been going on, everything being so busy. It's funny because most people would record a podcast every day during the tour. No. Every 2 weeks for us. We'll probably be back. We don't know. Maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks.
We will be back.
But we'll be back. It's either going to be 1 week or 2 weeks. So thank you for joining us and enjoy the ride.